Number 2, Washington. Well, they're not on the clock, but they're on the clock because we know Burrow's going 1, right, to Cincinnati. So, Mina, talk me through Ron Rivera playing this out so publicly. Well, maybe we'll take the greatest player ever available. Maybe we'll trade the pick. What? Tua is, of course, the topic of conversation, and Chase Young is so high on everybody's board. Please, Washington, what would you do if you're Ron Rivera?
Well, there's 3 things they can do. They could bring in Tua and actually have a quarterback competition, or do what Arizona did. They take Chase Young at number 2, widely seen as the best player available, or they would trade down and try to get a haul, maybe from the likes of Miami. Rivera's comments, him saying, it's better to get the generational player than to trade down and take more shots on goal, seems to suggest they're going to go after Chase Young.
Right.
Which, is the safe pick, I think, in a lot of people's eyes. If I'm Miami, I'm stoked because that means I don't have to trade to number 2 now. We're looking at 3 or 4 potentially if you have to trade up for Tua, because it sounds like Washington's out of play.
But you would agree with Rivera there that it's better to take a generational player or a shot at a generational player than more shots on goal?
Generally, I favor trading down and taking more shots on goal. It depends where those shots on goal are, right? Like for me, if I'm Washington, if I could trade down and get like a Jeff Okudah and another pick, I would be more inclined to do that. Because
all right.
Chase Young's a sure thing. He's an incredible prospect. He's one of the best pass rushers I've seen in a long time, but there's no such thing as a sure thing in the draft.
Woody?
Yeah, I'm just sitting here laughing at Mina because I've always been told you never trade a sure thing for romance. And that's exactly what you're talking about is you want the romance. You don't want the sure thing. You've got a generational player. You've got probably the best player in the draft sitting right there for you to pick, and you want to take romance. You want to go out and try to field and possibly get 3 or 4 guys, and maybe none of them will work out. I go back to Rivera being involved in the case where Cam Newton was number 1 overall. That worked out pretty well for them.
Yeah.
He got him to the Super Bowl. He was a dynamic player for years. Guess who was number 2 in that draft? Von Miller, just named unanimous all-decade player. You really want to trade Von Miller and go get 3 guys that aren't in the league anymore? Patrick Peterson was in that draft. You want to trade down and get rid of Patrick Peterson, who has been an all-pro for, 14 years? I think you stick with the sure thing. I think that's what he was saying. And you go get Young, and you don't have any problems. You got a guy that you know is going to be a great player for a long time.
Peterson, a great player, Woody. I think you rounded up there in the 14 years of an all-pro. Jackie Mac, at number 2, Washington, Chase Young, and let's also bring Tua in here.
Well, see, because it really is all about Tua to me. And Woody, everything you said about that draft, that's what we call hindsight. Okudah could be that generational player. We don't know. He's fantastic. He might be the best cornerback since fill in the blank, Darrelle Revis or anybody else you want to mention. To me, it's all about Tua. We now know, I think, effectively, that Washington will not be taking Tua. I think we can do that. Mina's right. We know the Dolphins want them. And now will they do anything to get him? And how much will it cost them to get him? And does the cost go up as the draft gets closer? Yeah. And maybe Ron Rivera changes his mind if the cost goes up as the draft gets closer. Or maybe it's the Lions that change their mind. To me, at the end of the day, this whole draft is about one person only, Tua. Okay. Where does he go and what is the cost?
I don't want to put a word out there that you don't agree with here, Mina, but befuddled would be the word I would use to describe your face when Woody was talking. Was there something in there that you disagreed with?
I guess I just object to the idea that after Chase Young, it's a poo-poo platter of randos. There are very good players in the first round. I agree with Jackie. I think Jeffrey Okudah is one of the best DB prospects I've seen in years. And after him, there's a number of phenomenal wide
receiver draft.
Yeah,
this is a wide receiver draft.
Yeah, it's not like the gap between Chase Young and some of these other first rounders is so massive that getting 2 or 3 of them wouldn't be worth it.
Woody, you brought up the idea that don't trade a sure thing for romance. Someone told you that. How many times did you follow that advice?
Not ever in my life.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.